All right. Video 12 is just going to be short. And we did get cut off in the other video. I had a phone call come through. But I'm going to explain to you a little bit more here about how Mork from Orc can be connected to crows, to blackbirds. And then what I told you about the connection to the moon, and that their sun god was sealed on it, and what that really means. So just absorb now how this image here of an ancient Chinese tapestry that is reflective of upper, middle, and lower earth, the exact same symbolisms that we see being portrayed within certain secret societies with their two columns on either side of each other, representing many things, but basically the root of it would be the connection or the crossing between the beauties and the beast. But the real kicker is when you find out who those beauties actually really were. But nonetheless, it relates back at least to the word, at least their supposed thing that they worship, the most enlightened, under a name entitled Lucifer. Lucy, well, that's a lady, right? That's a girl's name. Think of I Love Lucy, right? That show, she had red hair. They had something wrong there on that code, didn't they? They changed that rapidly. Heredity, you know? Sake, red, feminine, sack the red, right? So when you get Lucy, you get Lucifer, right? And that's Venus, right? Venus is a Lucifer. Lucifer is a light bearer, at least definably, you know? So Lucifer, fur is what? Fur is hair. But then fur is connected more or less to animal hair, right? So this is when we get the primitive daughters of men. You know what I mean? And then that's who they first unified with. When they unified, we're talking about the Anunnaki, we're talking about Genesis 6, we're talking about the crossing of the daughters of men, the AKA supposed beauties, with these beasts, right, being the fallen of these ancient mighty men. Well, the kicker is that the females were primitive. They were hairy all over, right? Because original human stock evolved from animal origin here. It'll tell you that right there in Genesis. But because people have been branded and brainwashed by the dogmatic given translation of institutionalized religious viewpoint of Genesis, because they don't want them to know the truth. People can't see that Genesis is plainly teaching creative evolution, you know, progressive evolution. Evolution is involved, but it's progressive and it's creative, and that's how God created. Mankind created from the dust of the earth. The dust of the earth is what? At least in ancient terms, it's a small particle. In some instances, you can't behold what a speck would be. That would be a molecule. It's like molecular. It'd be an atom, right? Mankind was created from the atoms, the dust of the earth, you know. And then we see that within this dust was infused the potential, and then we see that connected to the symbolism of the flower of life, which is then connected to at least the 2D flat point outline of the image of what? An atom. As it's drawn on paper, electrons and protons and neutrons, you know, evolving around a nucleus. And then, of course, we see that as the same symbolism for what? The outline of the Star of David, which then forms itself into what? The star tetrahedron, which then becomes the seal. And then mankind is intrinsically connected to the seal with his own willpower. But then we see those are being influenced by two forms of will, the will of the fallen and then the will of the Paradise Father. Who are you influenced by? I know who I am. So we can see now the connection here that their sun god is sealed on the moon. And then we see this where he becomes the frog prince. See him right there? That's a frog being shown to you on the moon. So we will make the connection here when I come back to Mork from Orc. And then Orc is an anagram for crow. And then we can see that the crow here is being symbolized as the sun, right? But we see that crow, as he is sealed, that sun god is sealed somewhere, now is making the symbolism of a frog. These two things are the same thing. The same thing. But I think that this more correctly interprets its originality. It's the dark sun in who they are connected in their worship to, which I told you is now connected to Lucifer, which they perceive as a light bearer. And then, of course, his subordinates, which would be Satan, his first lieutenant. And then it's reported that Satan had the power to go to and fro, up and down all over the earth. All over the earth, so to say. And then this is connection and powers to flight. We know that Satan is reflective of Prince of the Powers of the Air. So we can see the symbolism for the bird comes into play. So it is in essence their dark prince. And then this dark prince, as we can understand, is a being that was formerly connected to the light of the sun that has lost his light and become the dark one. And I hope that you can see that. So then as he becomes sealed away, he's like this frog prince that he's trying to get them beauties to kiss him again. You know what I mean? Trying to get accepted again. And he plans in, of course, being this prince to everybody all over again. But it don't work out for old Humpty Dumpty, does it? And you got to think about Humpty Dumpty's. We already spoke about it. It's a cracked egg, right? All the king's men, all the king's horses couldn't put poor Humpty back together again. What is that, Osiris Orion? Is that Osiris Orion? Because remember, Osiris Orion was broken or cut, so to say, into pieces. 14 of them, to be exact. And then somebody, Isis, right? Isis is a dude that looks like a lady. That's a sacred feminine. That's a goddess, right? Isis is trying to put Osiris Orion back together again. I'll be back.